are watching the World 24/7 on the NDTV network. I'm Parmeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the headlines we're tracking at the moment. More than 60 million Americans are under winter weather alerts as a huge winter storm is forecast to bring the heaviest snowfall and coldest temperatures in over a decade. As per reports, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is expected to include discussions with Indian counterparts about the impact of Chinese dams during his touchdown in India. Ukraine renewed its offensive in Russia's Kursk region as Ukraine tries to hold territory there ahead of US President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. Canada has temporarily halted accepting new applications for parent and grandparent permanent residency sponsorships to focus on clearing the backlog of existing cases, according to a directive issued by the Immigration Minister. Elon Musk has said Nigel Farage should quit as the leader of Britain's right-wing Reform UK party in an abrupt withdrawal of support by the US billionaire for the Brexit campaigner, who is trying to shake up the British political establishment again. Well, our big focus, millions of Americans are in the grips of a huge winter storm that could bring the heaviest snowfall and coldest temperatures in over a decade. Thousands of flights are delayed or cancelled in the US as we speak, with St. Louis and Missouri the worst hit airport. In fact, I must inform you that this polar vortex has brought frigid weather down from the Arctic, with extreme weather conditions accompanying it. Kansas and Missouri are under blizzard warnings with whiteout conditions forecast, and a state of emergency has been imposed meanwhile in the states of Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri. Well, for further clarity, we have with us live from Washington, D.C. at the moment, Ray Locker joining us. Ray, thanks so much as always for making time for us. How severe is this storm compared to recent winter weather events, and what areas are expected to be the most impacted?
Well, it's mostly hitting the Great Plains states, moving eastward and kind of this belt along the lower Midwest, northern and southern states. I include District of Columbia and Northern Virginia in that. These are areas that get some snow, but not a lot of snow, and not usually in this amount.
Ray, from businesses to schools to local economies, what kind of short-term economic impacts might this storm have, especially in the states that you're mentioning are most affected?
Well, it's going to knock out a lot of air travel for at least a day. It depends on how well the airports are able to clear the snow from their runways and handle any kind of navigational issues. I mean, people will probably miss a day of school and they'll probably get back to school on Tuesday. Overall, not a huge deal, but it causes a lot of chaos, particularly in places like Washington that don't normally get a lot of snow.
Right, and after the storm, what does the rest of the winter look like for the United States? Is there any indication that more intense weather events like this could occur again soon?
Well, I mean, I think most projections have been that it's not going to be a heavy snow winter. I mean, my neighborhood here, we're not really looking at a lot of snow in the forecast, but we're trying to be prepared because, you know, we have to pay for snow clearance and on our streets in the community I live in. Elsewhere, I know the city is being fairly well prepared. I went out for a walk earlier today and there was salt on many of the sidewalks around the city. So, you know, I mean, people were prepared as well as they can be. It's always funny in Washington because you have people from all over the country who live here, and a lot of them from like places like Minnesota or New York or Wisconsin always laugh at how Washingtonians deal with an impending snowstorm, whether it's 1 inch or 6 inches. So earlier at grocery stores, you had a lot of people buying food as if they don't have any food at their homes right now.
Ray, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the ground update. I must inform our viewers here that a state of emergency has been declared in the states of Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, Kansas, Arkansas, and Missouri as we speak. Meanwhile, the other big story we're tracking, US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan is expected to include discussions with Indian counterparts about the impact of Chinese dams while he's in India. Reports add that Washington will discuss New Delhi's concerns during this visit, and the Indian government has said that it has conveyed its concerns to Beijing about China's plan to build this hydropower dam in Tibet on the Yarlung-Zangbo River, which flows into India. Chinese officials on record have said that hydropower projects in Tibet will not have a major impact on the environment or on downstream water supplies. This is what China maintains. My colleague Vishnu Shom has been tracking the finer details very closely. He joins us over the phone line at the moment. Vishnu, reports state that Jake Sullivan is expected to discuss Chinese dams during his touchdown here. Take us through what we know about his plan of action.
I'm not sure that's going to be a priority at all in these talks. This is just a visit which concludes what has been a very active period of engagement between the United States and India. Jake Sullivan, as the National Security Advisor of the United States, is somebody who has been a key part of that. He'll be meeting the External Affairs Minister and the National Security Advisor. They'll be talking about semiconductors. That's part of the ISET process between India and the United States. They're also likely to perhaps bring up the entire issue of the supply of General Electric jet engines for India's Tejas fighters. That's been a process that's been delayed, the provision of these engines and the manufacture of these engines in India as well. But it's been he's been a very welcome guest in India. He's had excellent engagements at the strategic level with the National Security Advisor. And remember, President Donald Trump becomes president or sworn in as president for the second time on the 20th of this month. So it's essentially a farewell sort of visit across the region that he's doing. He'll also be speaking to IIT students today, shortly after 2 p.m., where he'll be talking about the prospects of the India-US relationship. But this is a farewell visit in a sense. Don't expect anything major. Whether or not he meets the Prime Minister or not is yet to be seen.
As always, for joining us with the latest update. Whether or not Jake Sullivan meets Prime Minister Modi is yet to be seen while he's in India. Meanwhile, let's switch our attention to what's happening as far as the Russia-Ukraine war is concerned. Kyiv has renewed its offensive in Russia's Kursk region as Ukraine tries to hold territory there ahead of US President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. Now, since Ukraine's initial incursion into Kursk in August, the first invasion of Russia since World War II, Moscow has actually regained much of its lost territory. Trump, meanwhile, has vowed to end the war, and a stronger position on the battlefield could give Kyiv a better position in any future negotiations with Russia. This is what Ukraine President Zelensky described it as a very strong trump card. Meanwhile, Russia has declared a state of emergency in Crimea after an oil spill in the Black Sea last month. The spill, caused by a storm hitting 2 oil tankers on the 15th of December, led to contamination in the Kerch Strait area. Authorities say new traces of pollution needed urgent cleanup, and over 86,000 tons of contaminated sand and soil have been cleared so far by more than 10,000 workers. This cleanup effort that you see on your screens is focused around Anapa, a popular resort town, and environmental groups report the spill has caused the deaths of dolphins and seabirds, amongst other marine life. But with that, let's turn our attention now to Canada, which has temporarily halted accepting new applications for parent and grandparent permanent residency sponsorships to focus on clearing the backlog of existing cases. This is according to a directive issued by the Immigration Minister, Mark Miller. The directive, which was published in the Canada Gazette, reaffirms the government's commitment to family reunification, but it prioritizes processing applications submitted last year. Mr. Miller noted that this decision aligns with the government's broader immigration goals, as we have been extensively covering on NDTV as well. And to streamline operations, other immigration streams have also seen new sponsorships paused. As part of its immigration levels plan, which actually targets a reduced overall intake over the next 3 years, the Canadian government aims to admit up to 15,000 applications submitted through the Family Reunification Program this year. Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the details very finely. The Immigration Minister has said a number of sponsorships will be reduced this year. Maha joins us with the lowdown.
The issue of immigration remains a contentious and an evolving one in Canada. This time, the federal agency, the IRCC, has decided to reduce the number of immigrants by pausing the parents and the grandparents sponsorship program, which means that no fresh applications will be invited for 2025 and only applications from last year will be processed, and that has been capped at 15,000. This program has been fraught with problems for the last couple of years, largely because of the backlog. By the end of 2023, there were about 40,000 applications in the pipeline, and last year, the IRCC invited 37,500 from those applications and finally will be processing only about 20,500. What is this program then, and how does it work? This program falls under the family reunification, wherein citizens and PRs can sponsor their parents and grandparents to become permanent residents of Canada. This is done by a lottery system, which means that applications are randomly selected. And the entire process takes about 24 months, which is 2 years. Let's look at this problem now, or rather this issue, in the larger context of immigration and this policy in Canada, one of the rallying points against the Liberal Trudeau government. So because of the negative sentiment that emerged against immigration for the first time in 5 decades in Canada, the Trudeau government decided to tweak the projected numbers, which have been reduced from the earlier projection of 500,000 PRs for 2025 and 2026 by 21% in 2025, that is reduced to 395,000, and for 2026 the reduction will be about 24% to 380,000 applications. And especially ahead of the elections, since this issue remains a contentious one for the government wants to be seen as doing something about their immigration policy.
To the other big story we're tracking, the number of people with flu in hospital in England has quadrupled over the past month and is rising at a very concerning rate. This is what the NHS chiefs have warned. Latest data, in fact, shows that there were 5,000 patients with the virus being treated in hospital at the end of last week. That's almost 3.5 times higher than the same week in 2023, although not as high as in 2022. But the head of the Royal College of Emergency Medicine has said on record that pressure on hospitals is unacceptably awful in the UK, and the flu is pushing them to a breaking point. Meanwhile, the amount of acute respiratory illness causing Americans to seek healthcare is at a high level, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In an update issued just on Friday last week, the CDC announced that in addition to COVID-19 activity increasing from low levels in most areas across the US, seasonal influenza activity continues to increase and is elevated across most of the country. Meanwhile, Elon Musk has said Nigel Farage should quit as the leader of Britain's right-wing Reform UK party. This is in an abrupt withdrawal of support by the US billionaire for the Brexit campaigner, who is trying to shake up the British political establishment again. The Reform Party needs a new leader. Farage doesn't have what it takes, is what Musk has said on his social media platform X, just a few hours after Farage described him as a friend who made Reform look cool. Meanwhile, as per reports, Italy is in advanced talks with Elon Musk's SpaceX for a deal to provide secure telecommunications for the nation's government. The largest such project in Europe is what our sources have informed us. Discussions are ongoing and a final agreement on the 5-year contract hasn't been reached, is what reports add. But people who are familiar with the matter have been in touch about confidential discussions, and the project has already been approved by Italy's intelligence service as well as Italy's defense ministry, is what reports state at the moment. Well, news and updates continue in a moment, right here on NDTV. Stepping into a very short break for now.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
All set for Trump 2.0. Countdown to January 20th. Terror shadow, visa wars. All the twists and turns. Tracking Trump takeover. Every day at 10:30 p.m. only on NDTV 24/7.
We are able to maintain the democratic fabric and the democratic system.
I want to do something that can make a difference.
लगातार जनता की आवाज को सरकार तक पहुंचाने का काम मैं करता हूं.
I was a student up until very recently. I really want to work and do something for my people because they have given me this opportunity. They have elected me.
सोचा नहीं था कि राज्यसभा सांसद बनूंगी.
Mahakumbh, a festival of faith, the world's biggest spiritual festival, the divine dip at the spirit.
Well, India is all set to launch a massive American communication satellite that would allow making phone calls using direct connectivity from space. This is the first time an American company is launching a massive communication satellite from India in a dedicated launch on an Indian rocket. Till date, India has only launched small satellites made by American entities, but this is a highly innovative and a more modern approach to satellite telephony than the existing services. Our science editor Pallav Bagla has the lowdown for you.
In a big move which shows the growing Indo-American relations, the Indian Space Research Organization's commercial arm, New Space India Limited, has backed a contract to launch a big American communication satellite using India's Bahubali rocket or the launch vehicle Mark III. This is the first time that a big American communication satellite will be launched on a dedicated mission on an Indian rocket. Till date, India has launched several small American company satellites, but not a big dedicated commercial launch. The satellite itself, named Bluebird, is unique. It is over 6 tons in weight, and it will be launched in February-March 2025. The Bluebird satellite and its constellation has been made by AST Space Mobile, a Texas-based telecom company and satellite service provider. They offer what is called a direct-to-mobile connection. So using satellites and their services, one can use ordinary cellular phones or mobile phones to connect and speak anywhere.
Meanwhile, the 4th anniversary of the January 6th attack on the US Capitol has a new focus as lawmakers brace for the prospect that President-elect Donald Trump may soon pardon many of the more than 1,500 people charged with crimes for their actions related to the riot. Here are the details for you.
4 years ago, a mob of thousands stormed the U.S. Capitol, attempting to halt the peaceful transfer of power after Joe Biden's 2020 election victory. The insurrection shook the nation, upending a long-held tradition of certifying presidential elections. Fueled by Donald Trump's false claims of a stolen election, his supporters clashed with police and violently breached the Capitol, aiming to disrupt the certification of Biden's win. Since then, more than 1,500 have been charged. The FBI's investigation continues with as many as 30 arrests made each month as they track down those responsible. Trump, already preparing for his inauguration, has pledged to grant pardons to those involved in the riots on his first day in office. As the nation braces for President-elect Donald Trump to officially take office, DC law enforcement has ramped up security. However, they say there are no credible threats surrounding upcoming events, including certifying the 2024 election. Meanwhile, as Congress prepares to certify Trump's election win, the memory of January 6th has faded for some. For others, it remains a dark stain on American democracy. Samia Afsar, NDTV World.
And as Donald Trump prepares for his inauguration, some of the legal cases that spilled out of Mr. Trump's first presidency will follow him into the second. Mr. Trump has signaled he plans to fight to postpone the scheduled sentencing for his criminal conviction set by Justice Juan Merchan of the New York Supreme Court for Friday. In social media posts this weekend, Mr. Trump railed against the justice, saying that he should be disbarred. Here are the finer details.
I will fight for you with every breath in my body, and I will never, ever let you down.
Donald Trump's criminal cases may be fading, but the legal battles are far from over. As the president-elect prepares to take the oath of office on January 20th, numerous lawsuits still threaten to cost him hundreds of millions of dollars. Just a year ago, Trump faced the weight of 4 criminal trials and massive civil penalties. But his stunning election victory on November 5th has changed the political landscape in the United States. Federal prosecutions have been dropped due to a Justice Department opinion shielding sitting presidents from prosecution. Meanwhile, appeals courts could scale back hefty civil judgments against him. But not all his legal troubles have evaporated. In New York, Trump's hush money case still lingers. Convicted on 34 counts of falsifying business records last year, Trump will be sentenced just 10 days before his inauguration. However, Judge Merchan has ruled the president-elect will not face incarceration, citing impending presidential immunity. In Georgia, the election interference case hangs in limbo. Allegations of conflict of interest have stalled proceedings. Even if the case proceeds, Trump's presidential status ensures no trial during his term. One of the most significant financial threats to the president-elect stems from a $350 million fraud judgment issued February last year by a New York court. The verdict found Trump and his company guilty of years of fraudulent practices. With accrued interest, the judgment now exceeds $500 million, nearly $489 million of which falls directly on Trump. His lawyers are appealing, and judges have hinted the penalty might be excessive. E. Jean Carroll's defamation verdicts against Trump total $87 million. Trump's appeals remain ongoing, but he argues presidential immunity should shield him from liability. Trump also faces 8 civil lawsuits related to the January 6th Capitol riot. His team insists presidential immunity protects him, with a ruling expected by summer. Donald Trump faces another lawsuit that his presidency is unlikely to influence. A defamation case brought by the exonerated Five, formerly known as the Central Park Five. Trump argues his comments were political speech and seeks dismissal. The exonerated Five have asked the court to reject Trump's motion to dismiss the suit. As Donald Trump prepares to return to the Oval Office, his legal battles could shape his presidency. The question remains, can he lead while still facing mounting legal perils? With Rhythm Arcadia, Bureau Report for NDTV World.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump announced key appointments to his White House team ahead of his inauguration on the 20th of this month. Stanley E. Woodward will serve as assistant to the president and senior counselor, while Robert Gabriel Jr. returns as assistant to the president for policy. Nicholas Luna will take on the role of deputy chief of staff for strategic implementation, and William Bo Harrison will return as deputy chief of staff for operations. And finally, the 2025 Hollywood Awards season officially kick-started with the 82nd version of the Golden Globes. The award ceremony is currently underway at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Los Angeles, and Payal Kapadia's All We Imagine Is Light has actually lost the Best Foreign Language Film Award to Emilia Perez. It's a bit of a heartbreak right now, but we still have our fingers crossed for the other nomination. But Abira joins us with the latest update at the moment. Abira, take us through what's happening in LA, the winners and the losers at the Golden Globe so far.
The sad part is that, Payal Kapadia's film, All We Imagine As Light, has lost to Emilia Perez for the best non-English language film. But we are hoping that she gets the Best Director award. If that happens, she will be making history, because even no Indian director has been nominated for Golden Globes before this. So that will be a big one for India. But other than that, Nikki Glaser has been hosting the Golden Globes this year, and she has been making everybody laugh in that room, and everybody is really enjoying her. I'll give you the big awards that have been announced. The Best Supporting Actress has gone to Zoe Saldana for Emilia Perez. Emilia Perez had the most number of nominations this year for Golden Globes. So there's no surprise there. We had Kieran Culkin wins Golden Globes for Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Supporting Role. We had The Bear. Jeremy Allen White takes home the Best Male Actor in a TV Show. Ellie Wong has won the award for the Best Performance in a Stand-Up Comedy on Television for Single Lady. And Emilia Perez, of course, takes home the Best Non-English Language Film. And right now, as we talk, this award was announced. Colin Farrell has won the award for Best Performance by a Male Actor in a Limited Series, The Penguin. So these are the few big awards that have been announced. We are still waiting for the bigger awards to be announced by the end of the award show, and this is kicking off the award season with Golden Globes.
Got my fingers crossed for Payal Kapadia. Thanks so much, Abira, as always, for joining us with that update. Thank you for investing your time in watching this edition of The World 24/7. As always, we'll keep tracking the latest for you. Do stay tuned.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast Show. I'm Radhika Ramaswamy joining you from Mumbai studios. We also have Divya Vadwa joining us from Delhi. Divya, from winter pollution woes in Delhi as well as Mumbai to Golden Globe Awards and Aam Aadmi Party versus BJP in the national capital. We have a lot coming up on the show.
That's right, the Golden Globes are underway, and it is, of course, the Indian entry. When we're talking about the Golden Globes entry, well, it was that very film that was nominated in 2 categories. However, from what we're hearing now, as far as Payal Kapadia is concerned, the best foreign film has now gone to Emilia Perez, and it is Payal Kapadia who's lost out in that category. But there's still hope. In fact, let's not lose hope when it comes to the best director. So that is the nomination category that still has to be announced. We'll get you all the details first. Let's get you the headlines. And let's just get you a check on the fog conditions in the national capital. And the fog conditions have taken a break as far as the Delhi NCR region is concerned. However, rain is expected, and that's going to have a trickling impact, which basically means that fog conditions will be back with a banger tomorrow. But in Mumbai, it is where, in fact, the pollution has taken it has been impacted severely.
That's right, Mumbai's winter pollution challenge. In fact, Mumbai's air turns toxic. Several areas are dealing with air quality issues. Poor category is what we are witnessing in the city of Mumbai in multiple areas.
And the Bihar police has gone ahead and taken Prashant Kishore. They have detained him from Patna. He had started an indefinite hunger strike from the 2nd of January over BPSC exams there in solidarity with the protesting students. And there you can see visuals on your screen of Prashant Kishore being detained.
And Formula E race case probe picks up pace. BRS leader KTR is likely to appear before the Anti-Corruption Bureau today.
And it's getting very cold across the world. In fact, not just here in India, but we can see, as far as the United States is concerned, a massive winter storm that has blasted parts of the United States. 6 states have declared a state of emergency. Few areas have recorded the heaviest snowfall in a matter of a decade.